you go to our home page, and in your home page, you see all the capabilities. And basically, the capability of Open Connector is called as Extend Non-SAP Connectivity. I will give you a bit of introduction now. What is Open Connector and why is it called Extend in a way Non-SAP Connectivity? Let's see if there is an sender A, or let's say if it's an Ariba application sending a message to cloud integration, and we expect that this message goes to S/4HANA system, or maybe it converts into an ad hoc or goes into any ERP/SAP system S4. That's the from our cloud integration. And now let's say if the message fails, we need to create an incident, or we need to log that incident in ServiceNow. Here there is, let's say, ServiceNow, which is an TIL tool, basically to create incidents, to update incidents, to basically report incidents that something is not right within your landscape, or where business wants to report something to their IT team, and so that the IT team knows that functionally or business process wise something is not working, which they expect to, and then uh, this incident is then assigned to respective IT owners and the group whose responsibility is now to look at that issue and fix it. So that's the whole purpose of having an ITIL tool or ITIL process within a company. Now, let's say if a business, if a business person says, why can't you create incident in ServiceNow directly? Because this is one of the critical interfaces. If any orders which are, if any invoice or if any order created in Ariba, I want that order in S4 to be received. If something goes wrong here, irrespective if it is, I need to create incidents on each failure, and I need to log that in ServiceNow. That's my requirement. I have to do that. Whatever cost it is. So one way it would be to monitor your iFlow manually in monitoring and do that. And then any errors which are logged, maybe you have to import the payload or manually create those tickets and things like that. Okay, if you want to automate that, you may need to ask your ServiceNow team that do you have any APIs directly on your ServiceNow tool, which we can use in cloud integration so that we can call that API and create that incident. So, and then what ServiceNow team will say, okay, we have to check and things like that. Probably they may have some APIs, or probably they may need to customize some APIs for us or for cloud integration, so that the cloud integration can call those APIs here in for automizing this process, because manually it's always a headache. You need persons working in shifts. You need always 2 or 3 persons looking at the iFlows and basically catching each of the error and manually logging those error in ServiceNow. Now everything is moving towards automation, AI, and such sort of thing. And in this world, we have to minimize as much as efforts which is needed to be done on the manual side. So instead of now, let's say the same case is Jira here. So there is also one more tool you are using in your company, let's say calling it as Jira. And business says, so you are saying, for example, now there is a case which we are also doing on our side is that a ticket is always created in a ServiceNow, but the project team do not work directly on the ServiceNow ticket, but they are working on a ticket within Jira. Yeah. So basically, there also needs to be an integration between these two. system. So you expect that as soon as a ticket is created in ServiceNow, the Jira is also notified about that. Or you may need to create the same ticket in Jira so that the project team is then informed that there is an incident which is now there and a project team needs to fix it. Because maybe in ServiceNow you are doing L1 and L2 support, but for L3 you have a separate team. Maybe you have an internal team of developers, and for L2 and L3 you have an external partner, which they are just doing and monitoring and providing some L1 and L2 support. But for L3, fixing something if it is required, it's an activity of a project team and they only work on Jira. And now you need that each and every incident which is created here is also reflected in Jira so that your project team also knows about what are the incidents coming in, because these project team, they do not know about ServiceNow, for example. So what SAP did is, now in terms of creating incident in Jira, ServiceNow will ask Jira colleagues, do you have an API which we can call? Because I need to notify you if there is an incident. Maybe I need to send you an event notification, because here there are also events which come out. If an incident is created, there will be an event saying that to this group, there is a new incident which is created. And then Jira can take this event and fetch the detail of that incident and create that incident here. If the incident is updated, there will be an update event coming in and saying that, okay, there is an update to an incident. Let me fetch the latest comments which are added there and update my ticket here. So things like that. And the other way around as well. A project team, a developer fix the incident in Jira and now updates the comment in Jira that the incident is fixed and ask the business user to check this. Then basically a business user only works in ServiceNow. They don't know about Jira. Yeah. So then this update needs to go the other way from here to ServiceNow, that a ticket is updated in Jira is also now syncing the updates to ServiceNow. And then the Jira colleagues will also ask, do you also have an API which we can use to update a ticket? So that's where Open Connectors comes into picture, because now these are nothing but what? These are non-SAP systems. Yeah, these are nothing but non-SAP connectivity. You may have Google Drive, you may have many other, which we will see now. Yeah, like Facebook, Twitter, any such social networks and so on. You can connect those non-SAP systems using Open Connectors. Yeah, it's not like, let's say if you have to connect Twitter here, maybe there is a message which is published from your CEO, and now you have to publish the same message in Twitter as well. Because if a message is published by a CEO will not go and publish those message in each and every forums, in Twitter, in Facebook, in let's say in Instagram or whatever social media sites which you call. So usually those are done using some apps. Okay, there is one central way to publish it, and then accordingly that message gets published in all the platforms. And this is something you can also automate it using Open Connectors. So, but now if you have to publish this message, let's say this message from a CEO here is sent to a local tool here within your company, that let's say a SharePoint, that the CEO uploads a blog in a SharePoint, and now you want to publish that blog in multiple forums. Yeah, like I said, you want to publish it in Twitter, in Facebook, in any in LinkedIn, and so on. Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, many places. This, what you can do is you can basically then read the message from the SharePoint here. You read the message from the SharePoint, but now you have to publish that message to multiple non-SAP systems here. but you cannot just ask Twitter or go in a Twitter website and find their API documentation, whether Twitter has an open API by which they can publish the message in Twitter. If Facebook has an open API by which they can publish a message in Facebook, or LinkedIn has an open API by which they can post or publish a message in LinkedIn. Yeah, that would be too much of an exercise if you have to do it like that. So what SAP did is SAP bought open connectors. Yeah, and it basically, if I remove this now, big arrow here, for example, let me remove this, or let me keep open connector here, for example, or let me keep this big box here. That's it. This is now a box of open connector. What SAP did is SAP brought in all these applications within one umbrella. So it brought Jira in, it brought ServiceNow in, copy, it brought Twitter, all these three together in here. Yeah. And then copy this whole box, Control X here. And now you see it becomes so simple now. If now I have to create an incident in ServiceNow, there is only one gateway here, Open Connector. So now Open Connector internally will be connected to the ServiceNow instance, for example, but Open Connector already knows all the APIs which ServiceNow offers. So it has the API documentation from ServiceNow. How can you create an incident? How can you update an incident? How can you delete an incident? How can you get the latest of that incident? How can you subscribe to a notification service of ServiceNow? Like if an incident is updated, created, or deleted, you will get a notification. So all those things, Open Connector has consumed it from ServiceNow, and now what we just need to connect our Open Connector to ServiceNow. So as soon as we are connected to this, we can leverage all the APIs which are offered by Open Connector. So now Open Connector, if you have now to create an incident in ServiceNow, what you will do is you will call this Open Connector APIs. You exactly know in Open Connector API documentation of ServiceNow that what API you need to call to create an incident in ServiceNow. And then you can directly use that details here. So you need to use your Open Connector credentials, the API and everything which is offered by Open Connector. But at the end, when you're calling this API, internally Open Connector is creating that in ServiceNow. So that's how simplified that's how the landscape became more simplified in here, as you can see, because earlier now you were integrating integrating directly to the respective applications, but now you are integrating only to one application, which is Open Connector. Now let's say you have to publish this message to three forums. So basically you will have this three. Open Connector internally will connect to your LinkedIn account, to your Facebook account, and to your Twitter account. And now Open Connector knows which is the API you have to use to post a message to a Twitter, to post a message to a Facebook or to post a message to a LinkedIn. So what you can do is you can just use this API and can basically call these APIs, and accordingly the message will be published in each of these forums. You are not integrating directly to these applications, but you are integrating it to Open Connector. Yeah, so that's how it is. And let's say this connection here. If you, so here, what you can do is you can use Open Connector. So ServiceNow wants an API to know of Jira. So they don't need to go and ask Jira colleagues directly. What they can do is, so we connected Open Connector with Jira here, let's say here. So ServiceNow will now communicate it with Open Connect that I have an update or I have an incident which is created. It will call the API of the Open Connector, which is nothing but an API of Jira. And then internally, this Open Connector will route this request to a Jira instance, and in Jira, this ticket will be created. So accordingly, the same thing. Jira will talk to the ServiceNow instance here, basically, and will notify an update which is done in Jira that the ticket is closed or updated in Jira. So it should also be closed and updated in ServiceNow. So there is no direct communication which is happening in these individual applications. Everything which happens under one umbrella, which is Open Connectors. So this is the concept of Open Connector. Any questions to this? Okay, so seems not, but when I will show you now the page of the Open Connector, then you will be able to know more. But for example, this whole scenario, let's say with Ariba to ERP and S4HANA to ServiceNow, how it will work in general is basically if I take this here. So if you have an Ariba here, let's say Ariba, and then you have a big box here. Now, what is this big box? This big box is my integration suite here. Integration suite. And in this integration suite, I now have cloud integration, which is running. Now, I also have an Open Connector here. And then I have two more applications. One is S4 / ERP, or I also have one more, which is ServiceNow. Yeah, so this is how it is. Now you have created an API in your cloud integration. Yeah, here again, you can add more capabilities. Now, instead of exposing your cloud integration API, you can as well as add an API management here, for example, here. Yeah. So this is again an additional capability. I'm just giving a holistic view or end-to-end picture how you will design it, because we saw that using API management is a best way of exposing our API. So why not also show this in our approach? So Ariba is sending a message to API management. Let's say an order is created or an invoice is generated in Ariba. Maybe some procurement happened or whatever it is, and now it needs to go to a billing process. Yeah, and now this information needs to go to an S4 system about this number, order number, or things like that. Now this request comes to a cloud integration here, let's say, this one here. And to the best of it, the cloud integration calls S4 system, and in the best case scenario, this gets delivered directly. But now, if there is an issue here in cloud integration, there is an exception. So what happens? This needs to be logged in ServiceNow, basically. That's the case. So now in Cloud Open Connectors, we can send this ticket, or we can use the Open Connector API, and this Open Connector will then lock this or send this message to ServiceNow. So that is how end-to-end the scenario will look like. So the best case scenario is a message coming in, going out successfully. But if in exception scenario, we are using Open Connector to connect ServiceNow. So at the end, we are not building a point-to-point connections to this external application here. And we don't expect that we get a developer from ServiceNow sharing all the details and doing it, but rather we are using Open Connectors, which is a standard APIs, and then integrating it with ServiceNow. So that's one of the use case which we can use. And I will now show you. So we just have 5 minutes left. So maybe we'll just see how Open Connectors look like, but tomorrow we will mainly try one scenario, actual scenario, by pushing a message and then using Open Connectors basically to so first of all, in Open Connectors, what we need to do is we need to subscribe to that particular instance of that what we have to use. Let's say if you have to use ServiceNow, then we need to create a connection between Open Connector and a ServiceNow. That is the first step. Then the second step is Open Connector will then be able to show the API documentation what this application offers. Then we will see those. We can see those API documentations, and then we will choose which API we need to use, and then we will connect that API with our cloud integration or something like that, and then we will try to push a message via Open Connector to that application. So that's the complete use case which we will do, but it will take you to the same page. But let's click on Discover Connectors. So this capability is by default enabled in all your instances, integration suite instances. You don't need to subscribe to any or buy any additional licenses here. It is also available in trial accounts. So this capability is available in your home page in Extend Non-SAP Connectivity. So connect to non-SAP cloud applications from your integration scenario with Open Connector and non-SAP cloud applications. So make sure that all the applications which you're connecting are on cloud. Then only it's possible to use Open Connectors. So all these are basically, they all have an instance running in cloud. A ServiceNow instance in a company can also be installed and can be run on premise. But ServiceNow also offers a cloud application. It all depends how your company wants to work with. If they want to use a public cloud or a private cloud and have the ServiceNow account application to be hosted on cloud, then you can integrate it with Open Connector. But if it's with on-premise, then it will not be possible to use Open Connector. Yeah. So this is the section here. When you click on Discover Connectors, it will take you to this page here. And now you see here, if you click, this is an Open Connector page. It's again a part of Integration Suite. Yeah. And if I click on View All here, there are ample of applications here. You see there are so many in here. So with Open Connectors, you can connect to a Google Drive. Maybe if you are using Google Drive in your company and you want to post a document there, you can do that. You can read the content of a folder, yeah, using a Google Drive. Let's say what your let's say any known one, let's say Dropbox is one, Facebook as I talked about. So you can connect your open connector with Facebook, GitHub, Gmail. Yes, of course. Why not? Outlook. Yeah. So ServiceNow, which is here, Jira. Yeah. So all these are possible connections which you can. There are so many non-SAP tools which you can. Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, whatever. PostgreSQL, Salesforce. So these are something. Workday, yeah. I think yes, there is something called as Flake is one. I don't remember. It's okay. So
Slack.
tomorrow, sorry. Yeah,
Are you
Slack.
referring to Slack?
Correct. Yes, you see Slack is also here. I'm not sure about Teams. No, it's not there. So Slack is there. So if you are using Slack in your company, you can create a group there, and in that Slack you can push any failure notifications, so that you know that okay, some iFlow is not working fine or something like that. You are sending an alert notification to a Slack. Yeah. So then we will see one example tomorrow, and then we will see how you can configure open connectors, how you can use it, how are the API documentations which you can see in open connectors, and so on.